Hey everybody, Larry Powell here, your host for Studio HFL, where you truly do hear from legends. And of course, we've got a true legend here in the studio tonight, Wayne Bergeron. Wayne, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
Hey, and before we get to Wayne, I do need to take care of some business. Of course, all of these interviews in May and June are being generously sponsored by Trent Austin and Austin Custom Brass. And
Very
if you
cool.
have not yet experienced any of Trent's videos, then you must be hiding under a rock because Trent is putting stuff on social media every day. And I teased him this week. It's like every day must be Christmas for Trent because it seems like he's got a new trumpet or a new set of trumpets in his shop every single day, and he takes them out and he showcases them and he plays them, and and he's a great guy, great business. They will take great care of you out there. AustinCustomBrass.biz. Trent, again, thank you for sponsoring, for helping out with Studio HFL. Um, let's see. Wayne, you might appreciate this. Actually, I'm going to put this in here first. Of course, next week, this is going to be fun. Bijan Watson
Oh,
is going to be
awesome.
my guest. And I have not talked to Bijan yet. I'm really looking forward to this. We've only talked by email, communicated by email, but I know he's a terrific player and really am looking forward to that. So again,
Yeah,
that's
he's a super nice guy too. So make sure you tell him I said hello.
absolutely,
He's in
absolutely.
Boston now, so we converse only by text once in a while or hello or whatever.
Yeah. So then, Wayne, you might appreciate this. This is one of my shirts I've got for sale, the World Trumpet Force. And
I've
all
seen
right,
him.
and okay, so Ventilabis Magis here, right? It translates as blow harder,
Well, that is the answer.
right? I mean, and if I say this every week, if a trumpet community needs a motto, that's it, right? Blow harder.
Very good, man.
Yeah. And so that's available on the Studio HFL website, of course. And then Rex Richardson just ordered one of these. He's going to get this in a couple of days. But yeah, it says, "We will not be silenced." So the World Trumpet Force there. My wife designed that one. I always got to give her credit for
Oh, very
designing
cool,
that
man. Oh,
shirt.
it's on Harmony. I just noticed it. It's
Yeah,
new.
right. I mean, that's brilliant. But the
Really?
WTF there, using the trumpet there, it's a kind of subtle.
WTF? What
Yeah,
the?
exactly, right? I wanted to make a shirt that says we put the FU in fundamentals, right? See, you laugh at
Yeah.
that, but I kind of wonder if I would lose some if I actually might
Oh,
gain a lot of listeners
yeah, yeah,
if I put that out
yeah.
there, right?
I've said things much more off color than that at school, elementary
Yeah,
school.
yeah. So hey, we got some people joining already. David Wolf, a good friend of mine, Nathan Hiscock, another good friend of mine, both trumpet players, and then David.
Cool.
I don't know David.
There's,
Kevin, sorry, Kevin.
I know
And I
Kevin. Hey,
And
Kevin.
so, welcome, guys and gals, and whoever's out there. Appreciate you guys joining in tonight. So, yeah, that takes care of all the business at the front end of this. So, Wayne, how you doing,
Yes, sir.
man?
I'm doing pretty good. I literally just got back from Joshua Tree. Anybody who knows the Southern California area knows it's out in the desert. So I spent the last 3 days camping in the desert with my wife. Not trailer, not RVing, but actually with a tent and sleeping bags and cooking outside, and it was very cool. So I just got back. I haven't touched my horn in a week now. Anyway, but
Yeah.
anyway, it
Why?
was
Why wouldn't I think that you would take at least a mouthpiece with you?
well. I usually would, but I had some dental work done, and so I'm letting it settle down.
Well, that would
And
scare off the wolves and coyotes, at least, right?
yeah, we did see some coyotes, and
Oh,
yeah, and we did some hiking. I hiked yesterday. We did one pretty substantial hike, and then one nice hike. Just, a little bit strenuous, but a shorter one. And then we went back and I made a couple of filet mignons
oh,
and baked potato, and we did it up at our campsite with our fire on, and socializing with the other campers. It was really fun. And then this morning I got up, my wife and we did a 3 mile hike. And it was getting hot. The day was starting to get hot out in the desert, so we cut it short. So we did 3 miles and then came back and had some breakfast, packed up, and then drove 2 hours and 20 minutes back home. My wife's out front
nice,
cleaning up all the gear as we.
nice.
So
So,
I
is
got on.
Joshua Tree at altitude or sea level? Where?
Oh no, it's got some altitude. I'm not sure how high it is, to be honest with you. It's not ridiculously high there because it's the high desert though.
Mhm.
But like Mount San Jacinto is there, which I have a backpack that's 12,000 feet,
Mm.
and I backpacked that before I was in shape to backpack. My wife was trying to kill me, and it's one of the most amazing things I've ever done. But it was really difficult for me because you take this tramway up the side of the mountain to 8,000 feet. It's in Palm Springs,
Yeah.
Palm Springs Rail Tramway, and a lot of tourists do that. And then you can do little hikes around there. But we hiked into this other place, like 4 miles in, with a big pack on, 35-pound pack, and then camp, set up your tent and all that. And then the next day you put on a day pack and you do a 7-mile hike to the summit.
Wow.
And then you pack up your stuff and you go out 4 miles. So I was not in shape to do that at the time. I was,
right,
60 pounds heavier and not in very good shape. And I made it. The hardest part was when we got back to the very end of this thing, there was a little cement switchback that took you up to the bar in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I almost couldn't make it. And I just wanted that beer. I mean, I was just going, oh my God. I mean, after all that, that's a 12-mile day.
All right.
For somebody out of shape. I could do it now, wouldn't be a problem. We've been hiking a lot. We did a couple of fairly major mountains around here recently. One called Mount Islip, which is kind of a funny name for a mountain.
Yeah, right.
And it says 7 hours,
Wow.
And we got to the top of the peak because it's 6,500 feet, I think. And but we were the only ones there.
Yeah.
It's just in the whole way down, we didn't see anybody because it separates it separates the herd a little bit when you start getting into the harder hikes into altitude and going uphill the whole time.
I've never done some serious hiking before, but with the way things have changed in the last year, my oldest son, he's 32. He said, "Dad, let's spend 10 days on the Appalachian Trail this summer, or late summer, depending on where we go in."
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to it. But he's like, let's plan on 10 to 12 miles a day, and I'm thinking, it better be kind of level.
Yeah, if it's level, it's pretty. I mean, like this thing we did yesterday, it's up and down.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some pretty hype. We were working. We went to this old mill. There was a mill from the 1800s up there. Mm-hmm. So one of the hikes is to this thing. So we took that up there, and it had some incline, and it's a butt kicker.
When you go out like this, is this a kind of a reflective? I mean, when you hike, is it something therapeutic for you, or physical? Yes, but
most definitely, and especially now, because I started doing this after my cancer treatments. My wife goes all the time in the local mountains here, local hikes. And so I started going with her and her hiking partner, this guy, Alexis, this bass player friend of ours. And they would just, do a little easy one with me, and they go, "Oh, you want to go a little further?" "Yeah, I can go a little further." They started pushing me. And now I'm out there with them on a regular basis and I'm setting the pace.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel pretty, it's a good feeling. I go, man, from over a year ago,
right,
I'm actually doing this without stopping now. I'm used to have to stop 5 times. Now we do the 7-mile one where we go, it's 2 miles to the gate into the park. Then we go into the Topanga National Park and hike in. Then there's a big, pretty serious rock hill you go up. We just started doing that. And it's it's not climbing, but you need poles. I wouldn't do it without hiking, trekking poles. And you get up and that takes you up. And then we go up to this thing. It's called the Rock. I forget the name of the rock, but then we sit there and we have a little bite to eat. But I'm getting there and just sitting there. And that's where we have our rest, where we come down. And my good friend and this great saxophone player here passed away recently, Kevin Guerin. Mm-hmm. And he was a young guy, cancer. And when I was going through my treatments, him and I were talking a lot because he was in the middle of treatments. And anyway, he wrote me he's in the Big Fat Band, and he wrote a generic letter for everybody. He wrote me and a few of the other people a personal letter because we kind of connected. So he's a very outdoors person, a hiker and a runner. So I went up there to read that.
Oh.
And it was pretty emotional for me. And it's the weirdest thing, man, because I'm reading this thing, and then all of a sudden this really strong wind came up, man. And I was like, "Thank you, Kevin." It was like one of those kind of moments, gives me kind of chills to think about it. So, so it is therapeutic for me, and for my own selfish reasons too, because I figure I beat cancer.
Yeah, man.
And I'll show you. I'll show you a bracelet the guy at Capitol Records gave me the other day. That says, you can read that. I know.
Yeah.
Send it to
Yeah.
you. But Steve Genowick from Capitol, who's this great recording engineer there, he had colon cancer years ago. So he bought these from somebody in Holland, and he gave me his the other day because he knew I went through. I haven't seen him in a year.
Yeah.
So since my cancer, so I'm wearing that, and I don't take it off anymore. It's like, so I feel like I've conquered something, in many of my colleagues, Ryan Anthony and Kevin, weren't so lucky, as well as a gal that I know we're not talking about trumpet stuff right now. I promise you we'll talk about trumpet stuff.
This is great, man. This is life. This is more important than trumpet.
There's and I don't know if he wants me to mention this or not, but it's public knowledge. It's a trumpet player named Howard Moore from Toronto that we've been Facebook friends, and nice guy. And when he found out I had this, he put his wife in contact with me, who had the same thing. She was a lot younger than me though. Mm-hmm. And so we never spoke, but we texted, and she said, you're in week 3. Oh, you're doing really great. She was very encouraging. Expect this, your throat's going to really start hurting in the next weeks, from the radiation and all that stuff. And she gave me a lot of really great advice. And anyway, it was very kind of her. I don't know her, Anyway, in November, when I got my clean bill of health, I contacted them because I wanted to tell them. I was excited. Hey, I got my PET scan, came back clean, and I didn't hear from them. And unfortunately, she'd had a reoccurrence, and she just passed away a few weeks ago. So I don't know this person, but it just destroyed me. It absolutely destroyed me. I've never met her. Her husband and I don't know each other real well, but I feel like I'm as close to them as I am anybody in my inner circle.
I think there's a fella that just chimed in here, Klaus Anselm, I think told me about this. Is that the same? Is that a connection there up in Toronto? Yeah.
So hi, Klaus.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're heartbroken.
Yeah. Man, I'm so sorry to hear that. For as many people that succumb, right? It's bittersweet to celebrate those of us that survive, right? I'm 5 years 5 years cancer free now. Which seems like an eternity ago. And I think you're coming up on a year.
It's
right?
just the anniversary of my first treatment was May 11th.
Wow.
Not that I'm keeping track.
Yeah, well, yeah, you do, right? The calendar starts to mean things during times
we
like
we had a big calendar, and I was literally with a marker every day, every treatment.
Yeah.
Until June 29th, my final one, and it was, it's no party, as you know, man. It's but those of us that got on the other side of it, I used to think, when I got cancer, like, well, why me, and then I started thinking, well, why not me? It doesn't pick and choose. It's, they could just grab anybody. And so anyway, my heart goes out to, I don't know Howard's watching this tonight, but Klaus is, and he knows Howard very well. And my heart goes out to Howard and his family, and I think about them every day. When I was out on the trails the past couple of days, I was out there, standing on top of a hill by myself, and thinking about them. So
it was interesting too. Interesting is not the right word. Anthony posted, I think Ryan's birthday was today or yesterday. Again, another bittersweet thing to celebrate. And I think we're kind of middle of June. Last year he passed away, but
Ryan and I didn't know Ryan real well either, but he brought me out to Dallas Symphony to play La La Land live. They played to the movie there, so he brought, hey, you want to come out and play? He goes, they don't have a lot of money. I go, just whatever you get, just have them pay me that. I didn't care. I just wanted to come hang, and they got me a plane ticket and a hotel, of course, and Ryan and I got to hang for 5 days.
Nice.
And he was playing as he's going to chemo every day or every week, and and he was played his butt off, man, and we hung out every night. And I even remember I don't know if I should say this, but we were at this establishment across the street, nice restaurant, and I was having these Cadillac margaritas that I like to drink, and I was having one of these, and he's drinking them too. And it dawned on me, I go, dude, are you supposed to be drinking? And he goes, "Oh man, these go great with the chemo." A sense of humor,
Yeah,
through the whole thing. And then
yeah,
him and I were texting quite a bit in his final hours or months anyway, days.
yeah.
And because he had to do radiation on his face like I did, and he never had to do that. So anyway, we shared this, text banter, and
Mhm.
I've saved, of course, I'll save it forever. Just
Right.
really another emotional thing. And it's another thing, you don't know somebody really well, but they become family when you get sick like this, and just crushes me that he didn't get on the other side of this. He
Yeah.
fought as hard as anybody ever, I think.
You know,
He would.
you sit next to these people in the studio or on whatever concert stage, and you think about making music together, but I mean, you realize just how, I mean, friends, yes, but it really does become a family, right? And I'm thinking, just last week I edited Malcolm's interview for radio, and I'm going through listening again, and he's talking about Yuan Racy and some of these other guys that are gone now. And the way he talked about him was with respect and reverence, and it's like everybody. It's not just the trumpet playing, right?
Yeah.
It's the who they
You,
were.
if I've, whether you're religious or not, but if there was ever a true angel in this world,
Hmm.
if somebody said, I would say it would be Yuan Racy.
Wow.
He's just one of the most spiritual, and I don't mean spiritual religious wise. I mean
Hmm.
like a presence,
Mm.
and kind and inspiring. And when Yuan spoke, everybody listened. My
Wow.
band, I emceed his memorial,
Mm.
and my band played, and he requested my band play at his
Wow.
celebration of life.
Wow.
So I had we had Arturo Sandoval and Carl Saunders and Chuck Finley, then Bob Finley, all these trumpet players come up and played a feature, and all these great films of Ewan and Malcolm played, and it was great. And this, just to see all, my wife had never met Malcolm McNabb. She'd heard me talk about it. I mean, I met Ewan Racy. She'd heard me talk about him when I'd taken some lessons with Ewan. We were good friends. And but she saw that thing and she said, "Man, I felt like I knew this man my whole life just from watching what happened." And everybody, because the way I'm talking about him, everybody in that room feels the same way. We used to, his birthday, we would all get trumpet ensemble. We'd stand in front of his house and we had an arrangement, happy birthday. We'd play Chinatown. It was just something that happened on a regular basis. So, yeah, so I know Malcolm, and Malcolm knew Yuan real well,
Hmm.
so they were good friends. And
Yeah.
anyway, I'm glad I got to know you. And I never got to play with him or hear him play, and he
Hmm.
lost most of his sight. But anytime my band was playing, my big band played, he was there in a
Oh,
wheelchair
wow.
with a whole clan of the older guard, kind of
Yeah.
the trumpet players that are still around. And
Yeah.
they would come sit and listen, and you could hear Yuan yelling, being a cheerleader, "Yo, yo," because he'd always say "yo," it was his thing. And he'd go, "Yo, Wayne, give me hell." I'd hear him say that. It'd make me crack up while I was playing. But yeah, he was something else, man.
Yeah.
He was, and a player. I mean, I wish I could have heard it in person, but I've only heard the recordings. And there's a recording of him playing the Vivaldi with Bob Duvall.
Oh,
He used to play with the LA Phil here,
yeah.
when I was in high school. And it's just source music for some movie, where it's in the background. It's the best Vivaldi I've ever heard.
Of
It's
course it is. Yeah.
it's you want it. It's a studio guy and Bob Duvall. They must have talked about the ornaments because there's a lot of ornaments, a lot of
Right.
different stuff. But they must have talked about it.
Right.
But man, I listened to that. And I was like, my God, that's about as good as I've ever heard from anybody. And it was just done real quick for a movie. They
Yeah.
boom, let's record it. Boom, we're done.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Maybe you don't get enough time to think about it, right? You don't get enough time to fret over what you're going to do. So you just play.
and then Yuan, other movies, Singing in the Rain
Mm-hmm.
and some of these other things. And Singing in the Rain, there's a big trumpet solo that a lot of people don't pay attention to or don't notice as much. But it's kind of like April in Paris, the way it leads
Mm-hmm.
into it, like boop 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 boop, 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 then, you know, April in Paris.
Hmm.
Oh, not
Hmm.
April in Paris.
American in
American
Paris.
in
Yeah.
Paris. April in Paris. I'm sorry, I'm confused. My April, my Paris tune's confused.
Yeah.
But this, it led up to it like that, and then there's a high F on the end of 3 that comes in out of nowhere. And so I got to do this with the LA Philharmonic, where they did it, so they showed the movie, you know.
Right.
And so I got to do all these. So they have a click track for it. They have it all clicked out, and which is moving around, obviously, because there was no click
Yeah.
track when it was originally done. But you're sitting there and it's going, I forget how it led into it. It was like boop, 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 boop. Like FD with the shake on it, and then this, you know, bluesy thing that winds down.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most terrifying things ever, because it's almost silent when you come in, and it's just you. It's not the band coming in. It's just trumpet solo.
Yeah.
You know, and with strings, and you know, you see the string players, like bows go flying. That river, like, oh my god, I don't know what's coming. But so I bought the soundtrack to really listen to it, because I never. And I'm thinking, man, this lead trumpet playing is about as good as it gets on anything I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And the tightness of the brass section, it's as good as anything to modern day. So these players, you know, like Yuan and Ray Triscari and, you know, Condoli brothers and these players.
So, you know, not getting the credit. I remember talking to Rick not that long ago, and he was telling me, you know, there are real efforts to make sure that you guys are actually credited now on films. Is that happening?
That's starting to happen. Yeah, like the Oscars, only the last 2 years or 3 years have we gotten screen credit. You know, Rick did it like for, you know, 29 years or 30 years or something.
Yeah.
Never got to see his name.
Yeah.
Up there after all those years of doing it. So mine's been up there for the past few years. And then on movies now, they're starting to give credit now.
He was telling me
they give credit to the soloist, but you know.
Yeah, well, he was telling me the guy that drives the Porta Johns on and off the lot gets credit. I forget what he called him.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, but he's like, even that guy gets credit. You know, how come the musicians aren't getting credited for this?
The reason for it, or their excuse, has always been for it, has been music is in post-production the last thing done, basically. One of the very final things in the movie. The movie is finished. The end crawl is timed out with all the names up there already. Now, it's very easy just to rewrite a little bit more music and
right.
You know, but that's been one of the reasons that I've heard, you know, the end, because of that, because it's post-production, and to be honest with you, we work on the thing less than everybody. Some of those people have been there for 3 years. The catering people have been catering for these actors for 3 years while they're shooting this movie.
Yes, but watch the movie without music and see how good it is, right?
Of course. Yeah, we all know the reasons and
of course
why it should be. I'm not justifying. I'm just telling you what I've heard.
Yeah.
I hate it. You know, the fact that, you know, even on the second Incredibles movie, you know, that I've got a high G shake in every scene, you know, and I can't even get a mention, you know.
Right.
Like, really, you know, I got an aneurysm from that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Something, you know, so and then it's funny, other movies, like I remember I did this movie called Lawless, and I had one little like old-timey thing to play in a solo tone mute. And it was literally, I just go like something, little written thing. I got screen credit, and I watched the movie and I never even heard it. They gave me screen credit for that. They said Wayne Bergeron, trumpet soloist.
Wow.
And I had other things, but you wouldn't even notice them.
Right.
And then something like Dances with Wolves, which Malcolm plays, and the opening scene is this beautiful trumpet solo.
Yep.
And it said that the screen opens up, and it's Malcolm is like setting and he didn't get screen credit.
Yeah.
But other musicians did. There's a mandolin on there that got screen credit, like a few people, but not the trumpet soloist, who is a part of this movie, a big part of it.
Yep.
So that's a little bit frustrating, you know. But now that's changing, which is really great, you know. So finally.
So is that that's not just movies, right? They're doing that for TV as well.
I don't know about that. I mean, on Family Guy and shows like that, they don't show our names, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, you would never see it because on TV it's going, you know, they just
Oh,
rush
right.
through while the news is coming. The news that's coming on,
Right.
and I find that I know why they do it. I find it the most disrespectful. Just don't even show the credits.
Right.
It's the most, you know, because maybe you don't care, but you know what? That, you know, voiceover person's mother that would love to see their daughter or son's name go by on there, they care.
Hey, you know
It's
what?
a big deal to them, you know.
Disney has gotten pretty clever now, like in The Mandalorian and I think Falcon, one of these other new shows. They roll the credits, but then they put little snippets, you know, like teasers for the next episode or a new series in there. So if you don't watch the credits, you don't get to see this. So they're making people at least sit through the credits or at least
Oh, well,
fast forward through the credits, you know, but it's kind of clever, I think, you know.
yeah, that's good. I mean, it would just be nice to see, you know, and if, in a few movies they have, of course, you know, I've gotten screen credit a handful of times on different things, and some things I don't even care about. You know, it's like really,
Yeah.
it's like there's things I'd rather, you know, should be listening to the orchestra on this. You know, this.
So you mentioned something before we went live here that got me kind of excited. You mentioned Animaniacs reboot.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you're going to start the scoring that
we
again?
we've been scoring them. We've done, I don't know, we've done a whole season. We're in season 2. Awesome, but I'm doing it from home.
Yeah.
You know, because you know this kind of started after COVID, you know, and well, it started a little after that, even you know, when we started getting back to work. But they figured out a way to do this, and we could do this from home.
Hmm.
Family Guy did it first. I started doing those from home, and American Dad, and World of Mickey Mouse, and some of these other TV shows that I play on. And then we started doing this animation, which is we did the first ones, of course, with the orchestra in the studio when the series started, and then everything shut down. And so now we do them. So I do the first trumpet part, and at first what we were doing is I would play the first trumpet part to their mock-up that they send me
Hmm.
of all the cues, and then I would send them to the second trumpet player. I'd send them to Rob Shear,
Hmm.
and then he would play to my part, and then he would send it to John Lewis
Hmm.
and the trumpet section. We'd be together. We were doing that at first just to make sure when we sent our parts in that we were in tune, our releases are right, because there's a
Right.
lot of different interpretations we could be. You know, when we go wah, how fast is that?
Hmm.
Is it wah or is it wah? You know, there's a lot of different ways to do that.
Hmm.
You know, and they want the wah to be on the beat. So if the click's going like this, there's a wah, wah. The wah has to be on the beat, so you have to play ahead of the beat. There's a lot of people don't think about that probably
Right.
when they're because if not, it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, wah, and then the
Yep.
wah will be late and it'll be off of the picture. So I mean, all those things considered, but we've kind of given up on that. You know, it's kind of funny because we're getting so wrapped and we get the parts and I go, oh man, I gotta get this cranked out, man. So I'll just crank out all the first parts, then I just upload them to the thing, and I just tell the other players, look, use a tuner. There's no shame in using it in this
Right.
environment. I know if
Right.
we played together, we'd be in tune. But if you're playing it and you're playing to a synthesized track that's untempered to samples,
Right.
it's got to be true. You know, don't bother, you know, lowering the thirds or raising the thirds and measure. You don't bother
Right.
with any. Play in tune, or very, you know, within a reasonable proximity of a tune.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so we've been sending him. And I talked to the engineer. I go, how does this stuff sound? Because the trumpets always sound great. Because you guys, you send it in. I have very little to do.
Nice.
So every once in a while, I got to nudge somebody's note over just later, early a little bit to the other, or I'll move everybody. He goes, but in general, he goes, trumpet, you guys are crushing it.
So, you
So
know, think about that versus a regular session. You know, what's a typical call? 2 hours, 4 hours,
3 hours.
three.
Well, for these, a double, we've been doing double, so 6 hours.
So 6 hours, but they send you the first parts. And how long do you take to get that done?
I
Are
don't
they
know. I
still
don't
kind
know.
of paying you for 6 hours or?
Oh, of course, yeah. We're paid for 6 hours if we do it in
Oh,
15
okay.
minutes.
Yeah.
But in there, you can only record so many minutes of music per session per hour.
Oh, that's
You've
right.
got a 10-minute break, mandatory. Lunch break after 3 hours. Right. So there's all those factors in it, just part of the union contract, right?
Yeah.
And here, I don't have to take a break. I mean, I'm being paid for the break, so I'll plow through. and I've got it down to a science here. I mean, I've got the way I have my Pro Tools sessions set up, and I don't have a bunch of separate sessions. I have one giant session with all the stuff in it. And so I've got it down to where I can, if I want to power through these fast, I can. I mean, I take a lot of care to make sure they're right.
Yeah.
I play through and I listen because I'm, it's got to be right.
Yeah.
So I play it and I make sure everything makes musical sense, and then I have to edit the noise out, in between, because I just let it
Right.
roll. I don't sit and punch in. I just play the cue down, and if I make a mistake, I'll go back and fix it. Or if I didn't play something the way I thought, I'd listen and go, oh, yeah, that needs to be played this way. And then I got to go in between. I got to take all the room sound out and put a fade into fade out into everything. And then I consolidate that file and I rename it. And then that, I put it in a folder, and then I send that all the cues have to be labeled a certain way. ANMX, Q13 underscore
Right.
07. That's me. I'm number 7. First trumpet is number 7 underscore, M11 or whatever the Q number is. And we all have to do it that exact way. Otherwise, when they get this, it'd be a mesh trying to find these files. Like, oh my God,
Right.
the trumpets and violins would be intermingling in the files, and they'd have a mess. So everything has to be super organized when it's sent and uploaded to their server. So there's a little bit of work involved. So besides the playing, now I'm a recording engineer and I'm an editing engineer. So I'm doing the job of 3 people. So I might lend faster than 6 hours, but I don't feel bad about taking the money because I've earned it.
Sure.
So
Hey, I want to ask you, and you might tell me no. Let's steer clear of this. But there was a project you shared with me not that long ago. There's some first trumpet. It was kind of like the Music -1.
Oh, my play along app.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it's taking life now because originally it was going to be a Music -1 kind of thing, minus a lead trumpet. That was my original vision. And then I said, well, why don't we just make it music minus trumpet 1, trombone 1, bass trombone, first alto, first tenor, baritone sax, like the players that might have the solo chairs,
Right.
and then bass piano, so anybody can play along. And so Andy Martin and I and Sal Lozano, we recorded all the parts. I recorded all the trumpet parts and the solo, and Sal did all the sax parts, and Andy did all the trombone parts. 3 tenors and a bass trombone. And then they would send me. I would send them. I would work with I played to a fake rhythm section that Tom Kubis puts together in Logic. And it's pretty good because he actually plays like ride cymbal. He actually makes it feel good. So I play the trumpet part. That send them to Andy Martin and Sal. Then they would send their parts back to me. I put it all back together. When we were all done with the 12 charts, we went into the recording studio and recorded the rhythm section later. And then we played solos on different tunes, so there'd be solos in the complete versions. So what it is there's in the play along version, there's all those parts, but you can minus any of those instruments, right? And you can play along with it, and you get an MP3 of the full band minus your instrument plus the chart. And that was just going to be to sell from our websites. Well, it's kind of evolved since I talked to you now, and it's in a couple of different. We decided it's going to be a collaborative effort, and we're going to do more of this. So we came up with the name Add a Cat.
Oh, cool.
Add a Cat.
Yeah, man.
But it's ADDACAT. And so we have a website now, and volume 1 is up there. It's called the Monday Night Hang. And it's 12 just basically swing, meat and potatoes, Tom Kubis charts that are all public domain, so we don't have to pay any licensing on them,
Yeah.
They're really good. And so you basically get if you buy the whole thing, you get an album, you get for 12 tunes, professionally recorded. It sounds really great. Highest of standards, went into the mixing and everything. You get the Music -1 thing and the chart, and from the site, and it's a collaborative effort. So nobody's getting rich. It's just a thing. Well, it's a thing for players to do when they don't have anything to do, to get a workout in.
Well, I was just going to throw my 2 cents in on that. You shared that with me, and I'm still playing through those. I'll play through 1 or 2 a day. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So thanks for letting me keep access to those.
Yeah. So I've been practicing those myself. But we also, Peter Erskine, who has all these play along apps. There's a Bob Mincer play along app. He wanted to pick this up. So they have it for Apple, in app version, actually, for the iPhone. But where you get a mixer and stuff. The thing from the site is actually, physical, or you download just stuff, so. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was doing my spiel.
No. I'm glad you were telling me. I want to get to some of these questions over here on the side. And at the very bottom, Kevin's asking, where do we get it? And did you say Adacat is now actually a website?
Yeah, website Adacat, ADTACAT.com.
And is there a link even through your Bergeron site?
Not yet. No, there will be. I mean, this is very new, man. This is just born. When I left on my little camping trip here. So, and
I'll put that in the notes when I post this. I'll put that website link up there.
Oh, great. Yeah. Trey Henry, the bass player's son, designed the site. So we paid him for the website design and for the maintenance of it. And then any money made, and there's also the cool thing about this Adacat site, besides all the individual instruments, there's a conductor one. And there, a band director can get the CD or the MP3, basically there's no physical CDs, and the chart for $45.
Nice.
I think it might be $50, but you get the chart for his band or her band, and a reference CD of it being played very well, or recording of it being played very well. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cheap, and I think it's going to have some legs here. I've almost got volume 2 finished recording here, so we'll go in and do the rhythm section. So we're going to do one more swing volume. Then we're going to do a soloist series where it's a big band minus a soloist. So a feature all the different instruments,
Right.
And then we're going to do one for like middle school, younger bands.
Good. So I can play that one. Right.
You need to play second on that.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I just got that. Yeah, I'm a little slow. Yeah. Thanks. I'll take the fourth book on that. I want to back up here. Let's see. Man, I got to get new glasses. Klaus is asking, is it similar to the Bob Mincer app? Do you know about that?
Yeah. The app, which is not available on Adacat, but there's just two separate things because this took a life of its own. Peter Riskin originally wanted to do this as an app only. And I said, well, I had these other plans. He goes, okay, well, can we use it? And I said, yeah. So it's identical to the Bob Mincer. It'll even the icon will look the same. It'll just say Wayne B play along though.
Sweet.
But it's the exact same app, which I have. I played on the Bob Mincer one as well. And which is interesting about that is Bob Mincer, we did this thing of all old charts of his, right? And we did this play along app, but then they decided to release a CD, and then it was nominated for a Grammy, which I thought was funny. The thing was not even supposed to be but it came out really great because the soloists were great, of course, and the band sounded really, really good. It wasn't just me doing all the parts, so I did just the lead parts. Then somebody else did second, and then somebody else did third and fourth. So
not just somebody else. I mean, this is what happens when you put some really great players together, right?
Yeah, and that came out really great as well.
Yeah.
So it was quite fun. Yeah. So those apps are fun, man. I think they're the way of the future, and especially during the pandemic, while those people didn't have any place to play. Now things are opening up, but still, it's going to be a while. These things are a good workout. When I play through 5 of those in a row with a student, I'll let them play lead, and then we'll swap, and I'll play lead, and then we do 5. So that's 10 charts basically playing first or second.
Wow.
You'll feel like you've done something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to play the rest of the day, so it's a good workout for sure and fun.
Shane Connor, trumpet player here in Indiana. How did you learn the electronic part of the business? Classes. Let's see. Did friends show you how to do that? Yeah.
I don't have any friends, so no. I've kind of known a little bit about some of this stuff for a long time, but just barely dabbling for years. It wasn't until I did my last CD, which has been a few years now, Full Circle, that I decided I wanted to learn how to do this, because I was going into the studio with a full big band, spending thousands of dollars a day, to go to a major studio here in Los Angeles, pay everybody, of course. I mean, I paid everybody, My last CD, I got $65,000 of my hard-earned money in it. It's not a fly-by-night production by any stretch of the imagination. And that's with favors. That's with people tearing up their checks and saying I don't have to pay them. So I did it right, and I had it, I didn't skimp on anything.
Yeah.
But what I did decide, because Gary Grant had been my producer on my other CDs, who I paid, handsomely. He's my good friend, but I still paid him, of course, because he would do everything, but he knew how to do all this. So we'd go into the studio, record everything, and he'd have we'd do 3 takes of everything, and then he would put them together, go, oh, take 2 is better, but the ending on take 1 is better. Let's use the ending from take 1. That's, so we put together the best of the 3 takes or whatever. And then I would play my solos live there. And then if I wanted to replay it, I could, or not, or whatever. Some things were live, some are not live, I'll just be perfectly honest. I went in and fixed a clam or 2, why not? We have the technology, if you were a famous painter and you were painting this is my argument with this. If you were a famous painter and you were painting this beautiful painting and you've been working on it for 6 months and you were on the final thing in the middle of it's the Mona Lisa and this just June bug goes splat. Do you just leave that or do you fix it? Or do you start over?
That's perfect. Yeah.
so that's how I look at that. So I think that, not to go off on a tangent about technology, but I think that if it's a fair representation of what you do live, it's okay. But if you manufacture something you can't do, I do take issue with that. Like pop singers that can't really sing and then they sound amazing and you hear them live and they sound like a goat being slaughtered. So anyway, so I learned, instead of paying Gary, because it was very time consuming, I said, I'm going to learn how to do this. So I bought Pro Tools and I did take a couple lessons with Dustin Higgins, Dan Higgins is a great saxophone player, his son, who's an amazing recording engineer and super nice guy. And really, he makes it so easy. So he came over and he got me set up. And so I had all these tracks. I've got all these big band tracks from the studio and I don't know what to do with any. And he just said, no, it's easy. Here's all your takes. You're over here in this window. He showed me how to do it. And he goes, you listen. He showed me how to edit. He showed me how to, from one to take one thing from another. If you can't always do that, but you can a lot of times. Right. And so I just started doing it. And I've spent several years now. Now I don't want to pat myself on the back too hard, but I'm pretty freaking good at it. So when the pandemic hit, I was way ahead of the curve from a lot of players with home studios. Because I've been doing this, and I produced a trumpet ensemble here, and I produced Tom Kubis's big band record, and I had the band here, trumpets, in my house recording. So I learned a lot about how to do this stuff. There is a new Tom Kubis record. Why don't I plug that while I'm here? It's called Take Me to the Ball Game. It's available on Apple Music or from tomkubis.com, or you can get it from my site too if you want a physical copy. It really came. It's the best CD we've ever done, I believe, and it's the most well produced. I will tell you that, because I'm really super proud of it. Not that editing or any of that. It's just the band is what it is. It sounds great, but sonically and the mix itself. And I didn't do the whole final mix myself. We took it into this guy Charlie Perlard at Dragonfly Creek Studios here in Malibu, and had him because he's got all the great post gear that I don't have. And so I mixed it with him there, and it really, really came out great. So anyway, that's how I learned to do it. I never took any classes on it. There's stuff I need to learn, of course, about how all this gear talks to each other. I can't show you because I can't turn my computer around, but I've got a bunch of stuff here. But that's another art in itself, is like hooking all this up so it talks to each other and works seamlessly. And Dustin came over and did that all for me. I know how to run Pro Tools, and Logic a little bit, and I know a little bit about microphones now and mic pre's and analog digital converters and all this really boring crap,
Well, it's funny, like in the last year or so, we've all become somewhat of an expert on Zoom, at least, maybe not Pro Tools, but I think we've all experienced a little bit of that curve, and what it's like to. First of all, I've gained a huge appreciation for people who design lighting.
Oh yeah,
right. Because trying to light a studio, right, and right now this might be the best I've ever looked. Normally, and I'm not saying much there, but it's like, you try all these different things. You try a green screen, and then you go to the microphones, and you try to find this, that, and the other. But what works great for vocal doesn't work, when you're teaching lessons. You can't use that mic for that, but. Let me get to another question over here. How do you achieve such an open sound and the high register? Wait, before you go there, I want to go back. You said you don't have any friends, and I disagree, because didn't you have an album plays well with others?
Oh no, it was misspelled. It was actually supposed to be a nautical thing. It's supposed to be plays well with otters, but that was a typo. So
Yeah.
that's I don't have a
So,
drum. Sorry, pum.
yeah, but you know what? That opening, Sinfin, was it something? Endless Torture, right?
That's on the other CD. That's on plays well with others. You were
Yeah.
absolutely right.
So that's perfect. How do you achieve such an open sound in the high register?
Um, it's a sound that I don't know exactly because I don't want to say weird technical things, but I play with a pretty open aperture in the upper register. And I hate to say that because it just opens up the topic for trumpet players to argue about shit. And but Bobby Shue agrees with me, so because this is where I learned
Well,
how
there
to
you
do
go.
that.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you ever watch Maynard play, for instance, he would do this.
Hang on a
And he
second. I lost your visual. Do that again,
would,
Wayne.
and he would stick his tongue between his lips and then put the mouthpiece up there and then wrap his, how he'd wrap his chops around the mouthpiece would be like,
Yeah.
man, especially later in life, man, it was just like really twisted and one ring was over here and he was, doing all this stuff. And, but he was opening his aperture up and then he would shoot this cannon of air through there to get the lips to vibrate, that far apart. And of course that aperture, the aperture is your volume control. The bigger the aperture, the louder you're going to be. And that's just the fact of the matter. If you're blowing into an oboe or something and you make the tunnel, squeeze down on the mouthpiece, no matter how hard you play, it's only going to get so loud. They create dynamic by getting that reed opened up. This is our reed. So that's where air kind of comes in because to create the upper register notes with the aperture further apart, you have to create more compression inside the mouthpiece to get the lips to vibrate the frequency of those notes. I think. I follow everything up with I think because that's how I feel about it. And that's, talking to Bobby Shue about this stuff and he would have a much more in-depth reason for all of this. But, that's how I think about it. I just think about playing like an opera singer is my mental. And Maynard said that to me. I asked Maynard, God, when you play the upper register, man, it just sounds so wide open, And I asked him about tongue level and all stuff, and he had no idea what I was talking about. When I asked Maynard Ferguson about tongue level, he did not know. He was like, tongue level, what do you mean? I go, yeah, like E, T, he's like, yeah, wasn't following it. He said, no, I just play like an opera singer. So I started doing that, and I probably told this story before, but this is 1986. So I started thinking about that. So I'm practicing. I'm going, I'm going, I hit a high C like that, and it's like twice as loud.
Wow.
And I'm working a little harder for it. Yeah. So on the bandstand that night, I'm playing, and the trombone player, Alex Iles, goes, dude, man, you are so freaking loud tonight. And I go, well, really? And he goes, yeah, man. He goes, what do you, we didn't even have any monitors, so it's not miking, And I go, well, wait, just show me this thing. So I'm doing this. He goes, man, because you're so wide open. So I've been doing that ever since.
And anybody that's watching this is either picking up their horn and trying it right now, or they're going to try, like me, they're going to try this after we're done here.
I've had many a student come in here with a pinch sound going, they were trying to buzz this little ant fart, and all this stuff. I go, do me a favor, play a C in the staff. And I want you to get your tongue out of the way. And I want you to, don't worry about the attack. And I want you to display fortissimo. And I want you to go, ha, ha. And I don't care if it goes, fa, I don't care. But they would literally be 10 times louder than they were when they were playing. I go, do you hear how much fuller that sounds? Okay, now we have to reel that in because that's a horrible attack and you're completely uncentered because your tongue's out of the way. So now we have to reel this in a little bit and we have to bring the tongue involved a little bit. It doesn't need to slam to the roof of the mouth. We don't have to play a high G. It's not necessary to do that. You can get the tongue, raise the back of the tongue by saying, ah, 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 and the oral cavity is way more open. You can have a bigger aperture here and you can have a bigger sound because you got more resonating chamber happening here. So I think, thank you for the compliment. It's very sweet of you to say that. But I think that's how I think about it anyway. And it's a sound I hear in my head. And my favorite trumpet sounds are many of, besides Conrad Gazzo and all those names that we always just name drop with, are players that I worked with here in Los Angeles, George Graham and Warren Looning. They
Wayne,
had big.
Wayne, hang on a second. I'm losing your audio there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah.
Right
Let me turn off my Wi-Fi because I'm on Ethernet right now. Anyway, hang on one second.
It got just a little bit garbled there.
Are you on my back?
Yes. Well, I mean, I can hear you. I can't see you just yet.
Oh, okay. Well, that's weird.
There we go. There we go.
I'm going to try something here anyway. I'm going to turn
Well,
this on.
something's better. Whatever
Okay,
you did.
I'll leave it. Okay, good. Yeah. So, where was I going with that? What did I say?
You're talking about great players. All they're great.
Oh yeah. So the sounds that I hear in my head, I mean, I always love Bobby Shoes playing, So that's kind of a sound I hear in my head when I play flugelhorn, especially. And I always love George Graham's playing, and Rick Baptist playing, and Gary Grant's playing, and they all had big sounds. They had big round sounds. They weren't laser beam lead trumpet players. Mm. They were well-rounded, could play classical music, could switch hats, but the core of the sound was always the same. That never changed. Where a lot of times if you get a lead trumpet player that's like a screechy lead trumpet player, and they sound great too, whatever, Bill Chase, he had that kind of screechy lead sound, which was great. And it was exciting on Woody Herman's band, but you probably wouldn't want to hear him play, on lead trumpet on Back to the Future. What I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's not that that's not a put down because he's one of my biggest inspirations ever. And I love, every note I play has a little bit of Bill Chase in it. But what I'm talking about is the more well-rounded type players that play all kinds of different kinds of music. And so George Graham, all those players I mentioned have big round lead trumpet sounds with plenty of screech in them. That's still in there. That's buzz and that sizzle or whatever you want to call it, that heat is still in there. And those were always my favorite sounds. So they're the sounds that I hear in my head. Yeah. I don't hear that other type sound.
I know there are an awful lot of people who are trying to, well, they're not trying, they're using you as a role model. And of course, Louis Dowdeswell comes to mind, Louis, what's that?
I said he's become like a very dear friend of mine since I've talked to him when he was 15 years old the first time,
But what frustrates me and everybody else about him is he makes it look so easy, right? It's like, couldn't you sweat a little bit while you're playing?
He told me he hurts on the inside, so. And he's, and to be honest with you, just to be perfectly honest, I took my recording stuff to the next level because of him, because he became this he really dove into the technology, and he's become an amazing producer, as you can hear on this project.
Oh yeah.
So he came up, when we did that Incredibles thing together, he was at my house here. Him and his wife were visiting, his fiance at the time. So he filmed me here, but he showed me a bunch of new stuff, how to set up my gear, just a couple little tricks, to get me sounding even better in my home studio here. So I owe a lot of credit to Louis. I might have inspired him and taught him a few things along the way, but he's taken the torch and run with it. I feel like he's my trumpet son, and I'm like so proud of him. I feel like you have somebody like that that's doing so well, and you feel like he told me I was the first lead trumpet player he ever heard because a Big Fat Band was the first band he ever heard. Mm-hmm. So that could go a lot of different directions. That could go very sour as well,
Right.
But so anyway, I'm very proud.
We got another question here as a follow-up. How do you decide when you're ready to record an album? Is it based on music you want to record, or money, or other factors?
Yes, and yes. My first CDs were done in chunks. My very first CD was done on a whim. I had these three charts: "Friend Like Me," "Waltz of the Flowers," and "Hospital Blues." And they're three charts that were just written for me to play at master classes. I decided to put a band together to record them. So I used Tom Kubis's band for those first three tunes. So I booked the studio, jacked up my credit card, and did the tunes. And they ended up coming out really pretty great. Mm-hmm. So I played them for Gary Grant, and he goes, "Oh man, Wayne, this is great. You're gonna let me produce this." So all right, so now I got to get the credit card out with a higher credit limit because I got to pay Gary now. So we went in and we did another 3 tunes 4 months later, and then another 3 tunes way later. So that's how I did that. The next CD was done a little quicker because I had a record label, Concord. Because of the success of my first CD, we got nominated for a Grammy, and all this really good stuff happened on a shoestring of a budget, really, And the next CD got picked up by record label, so they gave me X amount of dollars. It wasn't enough, but they own it.
Yeah, but that Grammy nomination, right? That's a big stamp of approval on something. I mean, that'll get you somewhere, right?
You can't see it, but it's up on a big giant frame in my with my CD in there. I'm very proud of it, of course. The second CD, nothing. All this money behind it, doing everything. The first one was literally for shoestring budget. And then my third CD, I was all in on myself with that one, like I said. But it's kind of out of just like it's time to do one. And I have all this music that people have written for me. I've got in my Pro Tool session here, I have a folder that says New Wayne Solo CD. And there's 5 tunes in there right now waiting to be recorded.
Nice.
So, one of them is what's the name of the tune? One's called something Pier. Tom Cruise wrote it. I forgot the name of it. But anyway, it's supposed to sound like Jack Sheldon. So I did a demo of it, doing my best Jack Sheldon that I could do. And then a couple of standards. I'll Be Seeing You. I always loved that tune. So Tom did this beautiful chart for me on that. So I've got that. So I don't know, when I've got 10 things, I'll probably take the band back in the studio, maybe end of the year or something, and go do it, go try to knock it out. So anyway, there's no really plan behind it. I don't go, I'm going to do a CD. This is going to be the theme. I just kind of do it. And people have been kind enough to send me music. I mean, I have enough music on my computer here to do 20 CDs. I have enough trumpet features to do 20 CDs.
We just got to make sure you've got the chops to get through there, right? So
exactly, yeah. It's but yeah. So I've got plenty of stuff, and then other people sending stuff constantly. So that's very, it's very nice to have a luxury of people writing for you.
Well, I know what'll help. Of course, Chop Saver will certainly help, and I'm saying that because Dan Gosling just chimed in down here. Dan says, "So good to see you both."
Hold on a second. Oh, I don't have it in this desk right now. God dang it. Oh crap! Where's my Chop Saver?
There you go. There you go.
But as a matter of fact, I was putting this on while I was hiking today. So.
I was just going to ask you to take some with you. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, here's an equipment question. Is there going to be a revision to your Yamaha trumpet? And if yes, how will it be different?
Yes, and yes, and here it is. This is not out yet. It's the 8335 LA Next Generation. With all their, they made all these changes to their classical horns, their smaller horns, and it's been very, very positive with the C trumpets and E flat trumpets and piccolos, and so they made all these same changes to Bobby Schu's horn, Eric Mearshaw's horn, and my horn, and so it's a different annealing. It's a different valve section, a different annealing. You can see the caps look different even. But a different annealing process here. The specs are exactly the same. I tried to change the specs. We had 10 different lead pipes made. I thought, let me make the Venturi smaller. Because the big complaint about my horn when people play, they go, oh, it's too open. I mean, I don't feel like it's that open necessarily, but if somebody's used to playing, a Bach 37, it might feel a lot more open than they're used to. So I thought about, I'm getting older too. I'm 63.
Yeah, things change, right?
And I had cancer and all that, so I was looking for resistance. So trying to add it in the front end of the horn here. But you know what? None of them captured the character of the sound. We ended up back on the exact same size lead pipe, going into a large bore tuning crook, coming into a medium large valve section, going out, shoe bell, but 460 or 459 out the bell instead of 444, I think Bobby says, or 445. So this is it. This is the pre-production prototype.
Is it Bob that you work closely with on that?
Bob Malone, yeah. But we did a big test session recently, and we have the new flugelhorn too. I don't know if you can see these.
Now, is it a Wayne Bergeron flugel?
Well, it's an 8315 flugel, but that's one. The old one's on the bottom, and then the one right above it is the prototype with some different parts. Basically the same flugelhorn, but with a few different parts, some phosphorus bronze things, and I'm not even sure I'm supposed to be talking about all this stuff, but people know about it already
Yeah.
anyway. But I got to tell you, the new flugelhorn too. You know, the other flugelhorn is great. I don't have any complaints. But I started doing this thing where when I was testing them back and forth, I went to play. I'd go to E B, just on top of the staff softly, and every time I went to tongue the B on the flugelhorn, there'd be a little burr on the front of the note, but like flugel-esque, you know. Never
Right.
trying to sound like a classical trumpet player when I play the flugelhorn. You know, I'm just whatever. You know, just those imperfections between the notes are kind of beautiful sometimes. You know, catching something in between. You know, and but then I realized every time I picked up the new one, I could go body, and it was never a glitch. And it's the exact same specifications with the difference of metal in annealing process.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, man, you were onto something. And we went back and forth 20 times to make sure it wasn't just me. And every single time, and I did something here in my home studio. I did something where there was a little flugelhorn thing that went up to high C or something. I said, I'm pulling out the new one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it went well. So the old one's not a bad horn at all. It's a fantastic, it's been a very, very successful horn. It doesn't say LA on it, but I was associated with the original design. So the horn's kind of associated with mine.
And Klaus wants to know, can you give a discount code for those that want to purchase right away?
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's people ask me that all the time. Hey, can you give me a deal on horn?
Of course.
I'll be honest with you, though. I have hang on a second, I got to close a window here. Skip this version, okay? There's been a couple of students, like, you know, poverty level students.
Mm-hmm.
There was this one kid in Louisiana, and the band director contacted me, and between their parents' association there, and then I paid the difference, and I get my cost. Yamaha gave me at their cost. I've gotten a couple of kids like that a new horn, you know.
That's awesome, Wayne.
And seeing the look on their face, if I had the video, I could find it. I would show you the video of this kid, man. If I've done anything right in my life, it was that moment. Because this kid opened this case up, his band director is filming him, he's opening it up, and it's a demo of me, a video of me playing it, testing it for him, and telling him, look at the serial number on that horn, this is your horn, and you know, it was a kind of a feel good moment. So yeah, I've gotten a few deals like that. Unless you're poverty stricken, no.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question. And unless you're going to play some of Sergei's repertoire, right? But have you ever spent time with a 4-valve flugel?
I have. I've messed around with the old Gutzon 4-valve, and Stonevie makes a 4-valve flugel now that's really great, from what I understand. But not much. I mean, I don't even like playing down to low F sharp, let alone going past that.
Yeah, what's the fingering for that note, anyways?
You know what I did play recently was one of my colleagues, Aaron Smith, who's a very fine trumpet player, lives here. He's a Stonevie artist, and he had a 4-valve C trumpet. And I don't really play C. I mean, I was trying to do it for a while because my colleague, I got on a date and I'm the only one on B flat, and I'm like, I just feel like a schmuck. You know what I mean? So I play. So I was trying to play C, but I was never confident on it. I never liked my sound on it. I haven't spent enough time with it. But I picked up this Stonevie, and and there was something about it that felt more like a B flat to me. And I don't know if it's the extra weight, and maybe it was a larger bore or something, I don't know, but it was more open. C trumpet, even a large bore C trumpet to me feels much more resistant than my B flat. So I embrace that in a weird way, being the lughead that I am when I blow. So I can't make it sound elegant. I can make the B flat sound pretty good, in a classical sense. On the C trumpet, I feel it sounds small to me from my end of the horn compared to when John Lewis plays it. And I hear this brilliance and this clarity. So, but I picked up this Stonevie trumpet, and I was like, "Oh man, I could probably play this." But
Hey, I want to take a left turn. I was thinking about something we were chatting right before we went live. You're talking about getting back into the studio, right? And what's going on in Hollywood right now as far as getting to the soundstage. Want to share a little bit about how that's working?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, obviously there was nothing, and I couldn't play at the beginning of the pandemic anyway because I was going through these cancer treatments, and
Hmm.
my whole scene went south very quickly. But as I started playing again in June last year, and starting to, I mean, I played through the treatments, but it was very difficult. But as I started playing again, work starting opening up, but remotely, you know. So some show, the first ones I started doing was Family Guy was saying, "Hey, we're gonna get these shows done. We'll send you the mock-ups and send you the tracks, and you can create a Pro Tool session and play the parts from home." So I started doing that. I would play all four parts, flugel parts. There's a lot of flugelhorn on that show, so four flugels or four trumpets or whatever, and upload them to the thing and send them off. So I started working, and then we started doing them like that. And just until the last 6 weeks have we gone back into the studio
Hmm.
to start doing them again. But it's still a smaller band. The strings go in the morning, and then the brass and the woodwinds go in the afternoon. We're social distanced, plexiglass between everybody. Everybody COVID tested now. Have to be COVID tested
Hmm.
before you go. And that's all actors, camera people, anybody on a major studio lot. Um, and that creates another thing because we get paid for the COVID test because we have to go in on a different day. So have to pay us for a time. So it makes the project more expensive, of course, too. So that can be problematic with being competitive with people that don't care about health and safety, in other places maybe. But we've been going back in a little bit more. But a lot of the shows I'm still doing remotely. I'd mentioned Animaniacs reboot. That's still remote.
Hmm.
And then the last World of Mickey Mouse, the ones I've done have still been remote. And I do this Green Eggs and Ham Netflix series that David Newman composes the music on, which is really great music. Man, David Newman is just so awesome. When I do that from home as well. So I have one tomorrow, as a matter of fact. I'm recording one tomorrow. So,
Hmm.
um, uh, but it's good to get back in. It felt so good to see people and know everybody was safe. So you felt,
Yeah.
everybody got a temperature. Everybody's been COVID tested. And most people now have been vaccinated.
Hmm.
There's a little bit more of a comfort zone about being around people. We still have to wear masks. We have to go out a certain way, come in a certain way, hand sanitizers everywhere, your own trash can for your own spit,
Oh.
all these precautions. It's a little bit of drag because it's hard to hear because we have dividers between us. So
Mm.
it's worked okay though. It's worked fine. Apparently it sounds really great still. So it's just weird.
So, they're making it work with a smaller group, but when things relax a little bit more, do you think they'll go back to, the 40-piece, 60-piece string section?
Oh,
And
I will. They will at some point, I'm
yeah,
sure. Instead of doing 20 and overdubbing,
right.
they still get 40 strings if they have to overdub. So I'm sure they will. It's loosening up. I mean, as this illness becomes less prevalent, and you know, it'll become more like the flu. It will at some point,
Yeah.
but you think about, I think about this, since even with my immune system being compromised, because I've worn a mask, even when I've gone in public, and I've been very, very careful. I haven't even had a cold in a year. Not my wife either. And anybody around, nobody, and it's probably the same for everybody here listening. If you've been careful, you probably haven't had a cold. So just, showing how effective this has been to helping the spread of this. Was it the
Yeah.
end all? No, but it definitely helped. And, you figure in Japan and China and everywhere else that people, when they get sick, they wear a face covering. They were just
Hmm.
way ahead of the curve on us on all this, But I don't think that's going to change. I think it'll be part of our culture, not to wear masks everywhere. But if somebody's sick, you have a cold or something, you would probably wear a mask. I think I will probably the rest of my life. That's probably the protocol I would take to keep from
Well,
making.
I think the hardest thing is communicating with people, right? I mean, it's you learn to read people's eyes, but don't you want to actually be able to hear somebody the first time and not say, "What? What? Say that
Yeah,
again?"
a lot of that goes on, because you can't hear them as well because they're muffled and you can't read their
Yeah.
lips. And
Yeah.
I'm 63 and I'm losing my hearing from playing the trumpet and all of that, So
You do not look 63.
thank you very much. Now you're going to say, hey, you look 68. No, I'm doing,
Yeah, right.
it's weird, man. I've managed to keep my hair. I've managed to keep from getting gray hair somehow. And it's
Mhm.
not, this isn't Grecian formula, man. I have no gray
Well,
hair. And
Yeah.
And I've had people argue with me, like, "Oh, come on, Bergeron, you're dyeing your hair." And I do not dye my hair. I swear on my mother's life, I do not dye my hair. I have a tiny bit of gray coming in right here, and I'm 63, and I earned some gray hair, so that helps. I mean, I look like I'm. The problem is I'm going to be 70, and I'm not going to have any gray hair, and I'm going to look stupid.
Yeah, but
So,
Wayne, you're missing a whole market here, right? I mean, it could be the Wayne Bergeron brand of just for men,
exactly.
right?
So I'll
Don't you
start.
know how many people would buy that?
Well, trumpet players buying anything gimmicky. I
That's
have.
what I'm talking about, man. You're missing a whole market.
I'll,
I expect at the next ITG you're going to have a table there with the just for men Wayne Bergeron.
yeah, there'll be no GR mouthpieces or anything like that. It will just be a hair product. But I'll
Yeah,
probably just streak my hair gray if I'm 70. I'll just make it gray. The
yeah,
hell with it. And well, thank you for the compliment. And the weight loss,
yeah,
but I'm also, as I mentioned, I'm a pretty avid hiker now, and
yeah.
I'm going to it. So I'm pretty healthy, man. I'm probably healthier than I've ever been physically because now I've got cardio under my belt, and
Yeah.
it's helped with my trumpet playing because when I was coming back from the cancer treatments, man, my wind, man,
Right.
I would go ba da 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 da, ba da 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 da, ba da 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 da. When I was doing stamp, I went back to stamp because I used to do it a long time ago. So when I was coming back, I figured let me go back to my roots, and now I can play them with one breath, and
Mm-hmm.
and so I see that that's how that's changed
Mm-hmm.
from getting that back together a little bit
Nice.
because as and losing that weight and stuff that changes our playing a lot, changed my playing a lot. I know it
Well,
changed your playing a lot.
yeah, and yeah, we were talking about that, and not that I want to take up everybody's time on that, but it's something that's out there, right? I mean, cancer can affect your playing. Anything can affect your playing, but severe weight loss can also take its toll. And so I reached out to you, and I'll tell people publicly here, thanks to Wayne Bergeron for the help. Ben Wright was also a huge help. Bobby Shue. So that's another thing we're talking about. It's scary, right, to let people know that something's going on. And so I was pretty quiet about it for a long time because until I'm comfortable. I feel like I'm playing well again, and
Yeah, good for
it's
you,
okay
man.
to talk about it. But it's a that's a scary place to be.
Yeah,
So
Bobby Shear is always my first go to whenever I'm having a problem with anything. I had a cyst on my lip years ago. I just go to Bobby Shear. What would Bobby do?
hmm,
It's my first. But in this situation, he helped me a bunch. I kind of went back to encompassing the wedge breath in a different way, kind of than in the right way, because the way I was
hmm,
doing it before wasn't really correct, as he pointed out. And I started doing Pilates and getting myself in shape. So now I feel like I've got my core working for me a little bit with this stuff. But I also reached out to Vinny DiMartino and just
yeah,
recently Alan Mazzuti, talked to him. We did a little Zoom hang the other day, and his wife went through the same cancer as I did too. So we talked
hmm,
about that a lot. And Greg Wing and Jerry Hay and Larry Hall and all these colleagues of mine that were so helpful, man, with advice and did any one of them have the definitive answer? No, of course not.
hmm,
But they all planted seeds that really helped me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
as my body and my metabolism caught up with the weight loss, and I got stronger, and the trumpet playing trying to catch up with all that, it all kind of went and leveled out, and now I can bang out some of these high notes again,
nice,
and then I got my sound back and all that, stuff that was not there
yeah.
at one point. And that's a scary place to be, right? When it's not there.
Yeah, but you know what? The trumpet community is pretty supportive, right? I mean, this is a great place to share. I think we've learned that for a lot of reasons. In
I've
fact,
learned
Alan was,
a lot of people. Yeah. Yeah.
I talked to Alan a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, "You got to get the wives. You got to start interviewing the wives." And I'm like, "Remember, I'd asked you about Barb because, uh, it's not just those of us that have the cancer; it's those that have to endure it along with
Yeah.
us. The journey
Yeah.
affects everybody."
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll do a talk about that with Barb. We'll do a short little
Yeah,
hang here one night
yeah,
and maybe other people that have had this experience,
yeah,
going through something as tragic as that.
yeah.
But my wife is a wealth of information, and she helped me as a player as well, man. Get my
Hmm.
head out of this stuff. the playing problems I was going through,
Hmm.
so she's kind of my rock with all of that stuff, so anyway, congratulations on the weight loss because you look
Oh,
great.
thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You're playing leveling out, man, and it's
Yeah.
a good feeling, Now
So we'll
I'm
have to hike together.
boom.
Look at
I
that.
haven't had
Holy cow, man.
a flat stomach, in 40 years, man.
That's the Pilates working, right?
Well, to be honest with you, no. I think it's just I've just lost some weight, and I've kind of neglected the Pilates as of recently, but I'm getting
Mm,
ready to dive back in. I kind of went south on it a little bit just because of time, and as I
mm,
started going back to work, I didn't have time to do it. But now my wife wants to do it, so we've contacted her again.
mhm.
And let me tell you, if you've ever done Pilates, and Wayne Bergeron never said let's do Pilates in his life, never.
Yeah.
That will kick your ass. I mean, you can be, I don't care how tough you think you are. You go into one of the positions this gal tells you to go into. She goes, now raise your your left foot 6 inches. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen. And every muscle in your core
Right.
is straining, and because you're doing it all with core. So it's really good for
Hmm.
this core stuff. And the reason I started doing it is because this good friend of mine, Danielle Andarnza, who's a really great French horn player that lives here, and she went through some health issues. She had this surgery and had some part of her liver removed, and this I don't know exactly what she had done, but it was very serious for her.
Hmm.
And as she put herself back together playing wise, she was really struggling. She lost weight, was weak. She started doing Pilates. She said, Wayne, I put a third on my range from what I used to have from
Oh,
Pilates.
wow.
And I said, give me that number now. So that's why I started, because she said that, because I was
Hmm.
struggling with this. She said, Wayne, I literally put a third on my range. So I would incorporate Bobby Shoe's yoga breath,
Yep.
you know, where you pull your navel in. But what I would also do, because I would practice at this church because I could be there and be alone, and I'd
Hmm.
sit in the church pew, and then I would engage my core when I played like I do in Pilates when I'm lifting my legs or something. So I would, go, I'd pull my navel, and then I would pin my spine to the wood.
Mm.
And I would play. And it's uncomfortable because it's making me strain right now. But when I go to play, my upper body would be completely relaxed.
Mm.
And then this would feel normal. It's like, okay, I think I'm onto something here that's a little different, by
Hmm.
really engaging my core. Now, do I want to sit and think about that when I play all the time? No. But as an exercise of putting myself back together and getting my core strength back together, I think it was really beneficial to me.
Yeah.
And I would go to the bank with it. If I had surgery again down here and was coming back, I would do all this again the exact same way. So that was helpful. And this is like me just, from asking questions and trying to learn.
Yeah.
And every once in a while something sparks up here. Hey, wait a minute. I got a good idea. I got a good idea. Let me try this.
Yeah.
And you get some success out of it, so.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. It's funny. Ben Wright, I mentioned him a minute ago, but he was talking about yoga. It's funny, as trumpet players, we don't think a whole lot maybe about anything
Yeah.
other than lifting a mug of beer,
Right.
or a pizza, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, you realize where that's, especially as we get older, right? That stuff
Yeah.
does get important.
I mean, you don't have to be, I know a lot of really big lead trumpet players that are, big dudes. And, George Graham was a big dude. Rick Baptist was a big dude. A lot of the greatest lead trumpet players I've ever seen were really big dudes, But do you have to be that big? If you're used to playing with that mass, as you know,
Hmm.
and they take that mass away, all of a sudden,
Yep.
there's going to be a problem because that mass, whether it's fat or whatever, it's part of your anatomy, is part of your strength. And when you're blowing through the horn, you're using all of that on some level. And if you take it away real fast, if you took it away very gradually, it would maybe level out a little quicker. This great trumpet player, Chad Shootman,
Oh
he
yeah. Oh
sub
yeah.
from the Big Fat Band. Chad is a high note machine. I mean, this guy is just like the most blistering. As
Hmm.
far he'd make me laugh when he played, hit a double high C, and I would start laughing. He silenced the ITG convention floor one time. I swear to you, at Amherst. And he picked up this random trumpet, like a Taylor trumpet. We were at their booth. And I go, Chad, do your thing. And he just started going, and he went up to this double high C and just started holding it, and it silenced the floor. And I go, ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner.
Yep.
So, but he lost 100 pounds at one time.
Yeah.
At one point, he went on this strict diet. He might have even had stapled, because he needed to lose weight, and it jacked him up. Now I think he's figured it out. He's put some of that weight back on. He's got his chops back, and he's living in Tucson now. But yeah, if you lose that, but then again, Brian McDonald is 90 pounds soaking wet,
Right.
and about as powerful as a lead trumpet player as you will
Yep.
ever hear. And Alan Vizzuti is thin dude. You know, we talked about that the other day. He said, "Well, I don't know what the weight loss means because I've always been thin." You know, and so. But I imagine if he got real sick and he lost a bunch of weight. I mean, I think weight loss, unless it's done in a very, very healthy fashion, there's going to be a balancing act that goes on. And, and treating it with radiation is not healthy.
Yeah. Well,
radiation
and
diet I recommend.
Yeah, I did the bariatric surgery route, and so still under physician's care. So, it's pretty safe. David Wolf commented down here, he's covering the anatomy and physiology of trumpet playing at the University of Kentucky Summer Trumpet Institute. I think that's what that acronym is. And David is a biologist. I think that might be what his field is. But, it's great to have people out there actually talking about that sort of thing. It's kind of like Bobby Shue, getting all that information. And of course, Bobby puts it in a way that, of course, directly relates to trumpet.
Yeah, Bobby knows a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He has a lot of information in that head of his, man. And he's talked me off the fence on many occasions, when I've been in trouble. And he, even with my chops, he goes, "Man, dude, you're looking for your chops 50 pounds ago. You need to find your chops now."
Yeah.
I'm going, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to feel that way anymore. I got to feel different now.
Yeah.
Find it. So he gave me some advice and it worked, so who knew?
Yeah.
So he knows what he's talking about, I guess.
Hey, Wayne, this is great. I want to respect your time. I usually plan about an hour on this. I know we're over a little bit, but man, it's great to see you again. I'm glad to know you're healthy and getting healthier all the time. I look forward to hearing. And actually, I'm going to remind people. I'll put that Adacat link up in the notes, or it'll go on the YouTube info. You can find it there, but. I'm looking forward to getting a hold of more of those charts coming up.
It was really a fun thing to do and therapeutic for me as well, because it gave me something to do here.
Yeah.
And it really, I'm really proud of it. It came out great,
Yeah.
So I think you'll like it.
Yeah. So everybody that has been here tonight, thank you so much for your comments, for chiming in, listening. And a quick reminder that next week is Bijan Watson, Tuesday night, 8 p.m., same bat time, same bat channel. So Wayne, thanks again. Hang tight. I'm going to sign off here. Oh, and Austin Custom Brass. I can't forget to say thanks again to Austin Custom Brass, Trent Austin, for his support for this month's live series. So thanks, everybody. Hopefully. Oh, yeah. Trent's great, right?
Good cat. Yeah, great player too, man.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. And we will see you next week. And
we off the air?
Not yet. It's taking a while.
I'm not standing up because I'm not wearing pants.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, it's taking a while here. Well, this is entertaining for people.